these are the best exercises to help treat pain around or under your kneecap. This type of knee pain can often be diagnosed as patellofemoral pain syndrome. Patellofemoral pain syndrome often stems from a misalignment of your kneecap. So here is your kneecap, or in the physical therapy world, we call it your patella. Your patella typically should be in the center of your knee between the two grooves of your femur bone. But if you have some muscular imbalances in your body leading to some dysfunctional movement patterns, or simply from overuse, your patella could sometimes be pulled laterally, or in other words, to the outside of your knee, causing your kneecap to not track properly when you're bending or straightening your knee. When your patella isn't tracking properly, this can cause that pain around or under your kneecap, and it can also cause that grinding or clicking feeling, or even just some overall swelling around your kneecap. This type of knee pain is typically worse when you need to squat, walk downstairs, run downhill, or it may also feel stiff after you sit for a long time. And also, patellofemoral pain syndrome is also known as runner's knee because this is such a common injury in runners. And since I do have first-hand experience, these are my personal favorite exercises to help you fix patellofemoral pain syndrome or runner's knee permanently. So the first exercise is the patellar mobilization. So with this exercise, we're mobilizing our kneecap, our patella, and we're trying to mobilize it medially. Because with patellofemoral syndrome, what happens is that if these structures get too tight, the lateral structures might pull that kneecap out laterally. To prevent that pain and that grinding and clicking, and to get the patella back into the groove, we want to move it medially. If you're contracting your quad in any way, shape, or form, there's no way you can move that patella because that is controlled by your quad. So you need to be completely relaxed with your legs straight. With your fingers, you're going to find your patella, which is your kneecap. If you have trouble figuring it out, you could always bend it and straighten it, and then completely relax your leg. Grab onto your patella, which is this bone right here. And then you're going to try to shift it inwards that way. Gotta make sure your leg is completely relaxed. Otherwise, you would not be able to move it. So it's this floaty kneecap right here. Shift it medially, hold it for 5 to 10 seconds. That's 1 rep, and you want to do 8 reps of this. So the next exercise is called quad over roll, and we're going to try to bias the VMO muscle, which is the vastus medialis oblique muscle, which again, because the patella is not tracking properly due to the lateral structures of our leg pulling it to the outside, we want to strengthen this muscle here so then it can help it pull it back to the inside. You want to roll up a towel and put it underneath your knee. Externally rotate that whole ankle and foot. Go out like that. Push that knee down into the towel while keeping that ankle out, squeezing your quad muscle, and then keep squeezing it. Lift up that leg. Keep squeezing that quad. Lower it. Keep squeezing and then relax. I like to do it with my hands at the back there so then I'm not needing to use my core as much. But basically, turn that foot, make sure it stays there. Really squeeze and contract your quad. Lift it up, squeezing, contracting. Come back down and relax. The best way to do this is squeezing, holding, pushing down. Hold it up top for 5 seconds. 3, 4, 5, and then come down, keeping your leg extended until you reach the towel, and then relax. And you want to do 3 sets of 10 for this one. So the third exercise is the single leg bridge. This exercise is going to work on your hip stability because typically with patellofemoral pain syndrome, what happens is that if your hips aren't stable, that's going to cause that valgus force and the knee is going to collapse, causing these lateral structures to get tight. The lateral structures, when they get tight, it's gonna pull that kneecap out to the side, causing that pain underneath your kneecap. So that's why this exercise, even though it's not directly targeted at the knee, it's going to help you with patellofemoral pain syndrome. I'll first show you the single leg bridge, and then I'll show you the staggered leg bridge, which is the regression down if the first one is too hard. So the first one, if you can do this one, it's called the single leg bridge. You're laying on your back with one leg at about 90 degrees. Think about 3 points of contact on this left foot. Make sure your hips stay level, hands on the side, core is engaged, and squeeze your left glute to come up. Hold it for 3 seconds and come back down. Core is engaged, 3 points of contact, squeeze your bum, come back down. Squeeze, come back down. So a common mistake that people might make is if they drop their hip when you're coming up. So this is a common mistake that we don't want, is when this hip tends to drop, and that could mean that your hip is not very stable. So we might have to train that a little bit later. I don't want to see this, where your hips is going to be dropping on the opposite side, but instead you gotta go up with your hips are staying parallel at level with the ground. If this exercise is too hard, and what do I mean when this exercise is too hard, is if you feel this exercise in your hamstring or your quad. If you feel this exercise in your leg instead of your glute muscle, it means you need to do the regression exercise, which is this exercise called the staggered glute bridge. So staggered glute bridge, instead of having this leg dangling here in the air, you're going to use this as the helper leg. So this leg is going to be on the heel, and try your best not to use this leg too much. And to do this, exact same thing, but now you just have the helper leg, squeeze the left glute to come up, come back down, squeeze, come back down. All the same things apply. Keep 3 points of contact on the left foot. This leg, use as little of it as possible while keeping your hips level. When you're doing this, you don't want the leg to drop. And also be careful of the placement of this foot. Don't have it too far out here. You might feel a little too much hamstring. If you have it too far in, you might feel like you can't come up too high, and you might feel tightness right here. So you want to make sure it's kind of at about 90 degrees right here. With this exercise, you want to do about 3 sets of 12. This next exercise is called the single leg hip airplane. To do this exercise, I personally like to use support in the beginning, because without support, the balance could be a tricky part. We'll be standing on one leg. Whenever our foot is in contact with the ground, we want those 3 points of contact, that tripod foot. Do a slight hinge forward, trying to keep yourself in a straight line, kind of like an airplane as much as you can. To rotate your hip out, like so, and then come back down, like that. So I also like to call this the rotisserie chicken exercise. You're imagining yourself in a rotisserie chicken skewer, and the whole thing rotates. You're not just rotating, say, your torso, and you're not just rotating your leg without rotating the whole body. You're doing the whole body together, so you would move your head as well. Whole body, and back, whole body, and back. So with this exercise, what we're targeting is your gluteus medius here, and also your core. If you want to make it even more challenging, you can do it without hanging onto something. This is going to really challenge that gluteus medius for improving that hip stability. So 3 points of contact, the best that you can without scrunching your toes. So rotate, come back, rotate, come back. Same thing on the other side. A little tip that I have picked up from practicing this exercise is when you're rotating, if you don't feel your gluteus medius working when you're doing it, sometimes it could be because the knee might be actually being pushed in. To do this properly, you need to think about 3 points of contact on the foot, but also slight drive out of the knee when you're rotating. So that makes the world of a difference for me. It's a very subtle push that knee out while keeping the ball of the big toe down, but it has made the world of a difference when I'm doing this exercise. So for the hip airplane, I want you to do 3 sets of 10. So this exercise is the lateral slider lunges. If you don't have a slider, which is a disc like this, you can always use socks or just a towel when you're doing this at home. As long as you have hardwood floor that you can slide and it's not carpet. If you do have a slider, amazing. These are going to help strengthen your quad and your hip at the same time. Slide the slider out and come back in, making sure your whole body and torso comes down in a straight line when you're coming down into that lunge. The biggest mistake that I tend to see with my clients is when they're sliding out, they tend to slide your whole body with it. And that's not what you want, because then you're just skating like a Bambi. So to do this properly, you want to make sure straight down, hip back, knee forward, straight back up. So these are lateral slider lunges, and you want to do 3 sets of 10. If your hip is weak, another thing you want to watch out for could be that the knee might want to cave in. If it looks like it's going to cave in and it's not very stable, you might want to do those previous exercises to start, because this, I would say, is the most challenging one if you do have Patellofemoral Pain Syndrome. So this is an exercise where you might have to come back to when your pain is settling down, so then you can work on getting the quad and the hip stronger when your pain symptoms are more settled down. So be careful with this one, but if you can do this without pain, that's going to be a great first step for you to permanently get rid of your Patellofemoral Pain Syndrome. So 3 sets of 12 for this one. Thank you so much for watching till the end of the video. If you want to support me and my channel, please hit the like button below, because your support really means the world to me. If you have friends or family members who have knee pain, feel free to share this video with them to help them out.